Jennifer Glynn is a fourth grade teacher at Match Community Day School, and James Likis is a former teacher and a Data Inquiry Facilitator for the Boston Public Schools. Jennifer and James truly embody teacher leadership. They've developed a program to transform instruction by empowering the true experts on what happens in classrooms, teachers themselves.
Every time a student enters a classroom, they deserve the best. A community that values and inspires them. A teacher who cares for them and holds really high expectations. And the opportunity to achieve at levels they didn't even know that they were capable of.
Sadly, though, this just isn't the case. And it's not a question of if teachers want it to be the case, it's a question of what we're doing to get there. In America, we seem to believe that great teachers are just born, when in reality, anyone can become a great teacher if they have the appropriate supports and tools for improvement. So, it's not that we've ever had in America a teacher problem, as all the lovely teachers in the audience know, is that we have an improvement problem. So let's dig into improvement for a second. How does anyone get better at anything? Well, you got to try it, right? You need to pause, you need to reflect, you need to name some next steps. And then you need to go back and practice to move yourself forward. This is true for fourth graders in Jen's class learning how to add and subtract fractions, all the way up to AP Biology students learning about the intricacies of photosynthesis. And the exact same thing holds true for teachers in classrooms. Teachers are teaching every day. They need to be observed. They need the opportunity to pause and reflect, get some feedback, and name next steps about how they're going to move their instruction forward. And then they need to get the chance to practice. Now, students have teachers to guide them in this learning and provide them with this feedback. And teachers are often relying on either an instructional coach or another administrator in the building to support them in this process. When teachers receive this thoughtful coaching, amazing things happen. When you get feedback on a specific element of your instruction, you're able to move it forward. And as you see improvement, your confidence will grow. And as your confidence grows, then you're more likely to target something else even more challenging in your practice to continue to move it forward for the students that you serve. Across the city of Boston, we see that schools that have higher rates of instructional coaching also have higher outcomes for students. And test scores are definitely not everything, certainly not advocating that, but high test scores are often the outcome of a rigorous and supportive classroom environment, and that's the kind of place we want for all of our children.
So if we know that this is what works, what's the problem? Well, the problem is that across the city of Boston and across our country, teachers are coached and given feedback at disproportionate rates. In fact, the average teacher in the city of Boston reports just 5 observations per year. And most of these observations are done for evaluative purposes, not to share feedback to help their instruction grow and therefore increase student outcomes. No, and the coaching that does happen often is targeted to the newest teachers, and the feedback they're receiving has to do with classroom management skills, whereas the more veteran or expert teachers are just left to figure it out on their own. Now, ideally, every school would have an instructional coach, but there are some complications that arise there too. First, instructional coaches are members of the administrative team, and therefore being pulled in 1,000 different directions every minute of the day. Their time spent in classrooms is decreased as they attend to things like being the nurse and helping with buses and calling parents. Maybe you have an instructional coach who makes the time to be in your classroom. Wonderful. Still have some issues. You have this content specificity that just can't quite be met. Maybe you were an excellent 6th grade literacy teacher for much of your career, now coaching 2nd grade math. Not terrible, but definitely not great. This problem becomes exacerbated in the upper grades as content becomes more and more specific. You can't tell someone to, reinforce expectations as they're trying to teach the finer points of William Shakespeare's craft moves in all of his plays. No, you need specific coaching from someone who understands your curriculum. The heart of all of this is that schools are stressed systems. Time is short, money is short, staffing is short, and therefore these things are allocated in more reactionary moves as opposed to proactive. Things like coaching are cut to the wayside.
So what are our options? Well, we could push to get an instructional coach into every single school, but I think we all know that schools aren't flush with cash, so it's not like that's just laying around. Or we could just keep our fingers crossed, really believe that we're going to do a better job with coaching teachers, and just see where it takes us. This is where do-it-yourself or DIY coaching comes in. Jen and I believe the solution to this problem is to fundamentally reimagine the role of coaching for classroom teachers, from something that's done only by an outsider to something teachers can do for themselves and one another through a very simple but very powerful tool, video. So how's this work? Teacher goes into their classroom, pull out their smartphone, set it up in the back, press record. What they're doing in this moment is they are creating a video of their instruction, seeing exactly what an outsider would see. After their lesson's over, with all the extra free time that they have, they find some time to sit down, watch that video back, and reflect on their practice. Here, they're not relying on somebody else to tell them what they need to change in their instruction. They're the ones looking and seeing what's going on in their classroom, targeting areas of improvement in their instruction to figure out what they need to do to best meet the needs of their students. From there, they're back, teaching again, videotaping again, and engaging in this cycle of continuous improvement. That is DIY coaching in a nutshell. But we built out a little bit more support through our year-long model. For the first third of the year, teachers are getting comfortable with the extremely uncomfortable act of watching themselves on video. In addition to that, they're doing some reading to improve their coaching capacity and their instructional leadership capacity. About a third of the way through the year, we make a little bit of a pivot. Teachers are still watching themselves twice a month, uncomfortable and all, but they're now engaging in peer-to-peer coaching conversations as well. Now, as the presenting teacher in that situation, I'm going to watch my video. I know what I want to do to improve, and so I'm going to tell my colleagues to watch my video with that same lens. We're going to get together for a coaching conversation, and at the end of that, I'm going to be the one naming my next steps. Because again, I'm the leader in my classroom. I know my students, I know my instruction, I know what I want to improve, and I know what my kids need. Two important things about this model. First, teachers are coming together in content-specific cohorts. So this is a group of math teachers all focused on their math instruction. Now, what this coaching is allowing them to do is to develop their pedagogical content knowledge. Very buzzwordy, but this is what that means. There's a difference between teaching math at a really high level and teaching English language arts at a really high level. So this is the type of coaching that's going to allow folks to focus on the particular moves that are going to move their students forward in their particular content area. Second thing, again, teachers are professionals. They know what their kids need. They know what they need. And so this is allowing them to drive the change in their instruction.
You might be asking yourself, what if teachers pick the wrong thing to work on? Or what if their next steps don't make the most sense? Will they even have time to do this? James and I firmly believe that teachers are experts in their classroom, in their community, and in their students. They know what's working and they know what's not. And they have creative solutions to implement to try to change things around. By watching this, we're helping teachers to illuminate what's going on in their classroom. They try out some strategies. Some don't work, some do, and it feels good when things are starting to move in a direction that you want. In this process, teachers will begin to feel encouraged and invested in their own strength as an instructional coach for themselves, and therefore make the time to do this. So ultimately, it doesn't matter what teachers are working on, so long as they're doing this and building their skill. We already have evidence of this change in action. Last spring, we piloted a DIY coaching with 8 math teachers, ranging from kindergarten through 12th grade. And this past fall, we launched a much larger version of the program. We're excited to share that we now have 28 teachers representing 22 schools across Boston who are engaging in this work, which is impacting 1,600 students each and every day. Yeah, it's pretty great. Now, while DIY coaching does cost money, we know that there's an outsized impact. At the cost of just one instructional coach, we're able to reach 4 times the number of teachers. So what are we asking for from you? Teachers, tomorrow when you go into school, take out your smartphone and film yourself, and then watch it, and you're gonna hate it. And then do it again, and begin to normalize this process of seeing what's going really well and where can you improve. And if you want to do this in a supportive environment, please consider joining us. Our application for next fall is now live. And for all of our non-teacher friends in the audience tonight, please help us to continue the mission of normalizing video as a reflective tool for teachers who are the leaders, who are professionals, and who are experts in their classroom and community.
So Jen started us off with a view of classrooms where kids are free to be themselves, to learn and grow, to make mistakes, to get feedback from a teacher that's going to help them move their learning forward. We now know that across the city of Boston, we have not created these conditions on a consistent basis for teachers. So let's change this dynamic. Let's empower teachers to do it themselves, and let's see the heights this model of coaching can take our teachers, but most importantly, our students too. Thank you.
Thank you.